thank you all for coming. I really appreciate your time and coming out and eagerness to learn something cool. My name is Harrison Shane, so you guys might have learned already. And what I do is I run a digital marketing collective. And basically, what I'm here to do today is talk to you about mobile. Mobile first, thinking about mobile first in your websites, in your apps. A lot of people have web apps nowadays, and sometimes they forget about mobile. I've dealt with maybe over 400 clients just in the past 3-4 years alone, once mobile started to become big. And mobile still is an afterthought. A lot of people think about, especially in America, that 64% of us own smartphones. And the fact of the matter is that people nowadays, they have smartphones on them wherever they go. And so we need to have mobile websites that go with them, essentially, right? In Asia, everything runs off the smartphone nowadays. There is no more wallets, there is no more ID cards, there is no more credit cards. Everything's on the cell phone. And that's the trend that we're moving towards. You already see in the past 2 years alone, we've jumped from, I think it was 37% owned smartphones, and now we're at 64%. That trend is going to skyrocket. People 35 to 44, those are the ones that are owning tablets and smartphones, mostly because our eyes start to go, around 34. I just turned 30 this past March, so I've got a couple more years to figure it out. But let's go ahead and just, tell you a little bit more about myself. So again, I started in 1997. I was a little AOL hacker. I learned how to code in Visual Basic C++. For those of you know, it's basically, on desktop, on computer applications. I started playing basketball when I was 5 years old. When my coaches learned that I was a nerd, they asked me to build them websites, and that's how I kind of got started building websites for coaches, parents, friends of family. This is me playing basketball. Over the past 18 years, I've been CEO, been technical director, senior web developer, designer, and entrepreneur. I've worked for companies such as Digitaria. Well, we'll start with BuzzTime. It's a publicly traded company. They do all the trivia for bars and restaurants. I work for Digitaria, which is now Mirum Agency, which is one of the top agencies in the country. Bass Digital, which is a political digital agency as well. They do campaigns for John McCain, Bruce Rauner, John Kasich, and Craftique, which is a fine art agency. Now I run Issue Fixers, again, which is a digital marketing collective. We started in January 2015. We're going strong. We have no employees. Everybody's a contractor or owns their own business. So we work with all kinds of partners across the world in order to extend services to people at a better discount or better rate than what a normal agency would charge. These are some of the different companies that we worked with over the past year. Go ahead and let that sink in for a second. So let's go ahead and just kick it off. Why does mobile matter, right? I mean, how many people in here have a smartphone? Just raise your hands. Everybody, right? How many people in here have a website? Raise your hands. Just about everybody, right? So how many people, sorry to ask so many questions. I know you guys are gonna ask questions to me later, so this is my opportunity to do it. How many people have a mobile optimized website? So not really everybody, but a good fair amount. Some people are shaky, hands up, kind of. When you guys are building websites, you can see the difference on your phones when you build it. You can see that sometimes your content is too small. Sometimes pictures run off the screen. Sometimes you don't know what you're clicking on. Sometimes the button is right there next to the back button, and you're trying to hit submit, and you hit back by accident, and all of a sudden all your information is gone. You have to do it again. How much of a pain in the butt is that, right? So we do mobile optimization. Mobilegeddon. Everyone heard about Mobilegeddon, right? For those of you who didn't, Shane did a great talk last week. What's up, man? And he explained about Mobilegeddon and how Google essentially changed the way that they rank you on your SEO, on your sites, on your landing pages. Now you have to be mobile friendly. If you're not mobile friendly, they're going to dock you. And by this graph, you can see non-mobile friendly pages had almost a 50% loss of ranking. The mobile friendly pages gained 30%. So you can see how much that affected people. People that weren't ready for Mobilegeddon they just dropped. You're on the first page, you're getting all kinds of traffic, you're getting revenue, conversion, you're just killing it, and one day, it just drops off. And you have no idea what to do. Are you gonna rebuild your whole site now just to fit with Google? Are you going to sit here and say, oh my God, I can't run my business anymore because I don't have any page rank? My whole business was based on organic traffic. Killer, right? So only 15% of all websites are fully responsive. 15%. 64% of people have mobile smartphones. 15% of websites are optimized fully for all devices. There's no redirection for optimal use on a mobile device. So that means that, how many people remember when M-Dot was a big thing? M-Dot, whatever your website is, .com, versus, you type in wellsfargo.com and all of a sudden you're going to m.wellsfargo.com, right? It's because they recognize they have some piece of code on their website that recognizes you're on a smartphone, and then they segment their traffic based on the device you're on. Let's talk about friendly, optimized, and responsive. Now, what it is friendly websites, you'll go on Google and it'll say mobile friendly on there, and that's because there is a script on that website that detects what kind of device you're on, and depending on if you're on a tablet or smartphone and what kind of smartphone, if you're using Chrome or Safari or Firefox browser, it'll serve a separate site for you essentially, right? There is something there that says, okay, this person's on a mobile phone, let's serve them this site, while the desktop version sits over here. And now you have to build some sort of connection between those two websites in order to, one, retain your traffic, figure out your data, make sure that your customers are getting the same kind of experience on both. If you change something on one site, now you have to change something on the other site, you've just doubled your time. You've doubled the amount of money you spent on getting your website built. Optimized sites are sites that also detect what kind of browser you're on, but instead of serving you a whole nother site, it serves you a reformatted version of the site. So you can still keep your own code, however, you had a couple other elements in there that basically make it optimized, right? Yeah. And then there's responsive. And responsive is when you're paying the money to do it right. Responsive is when you have a website that it's agnostic. It doesn't matter what device you're on, doesn't matter what browser you're on, doesn't matter if you're in your smartphone or tablet or phablet or laptop or Chromebook or huge 27-inch Thunderbolt. The website's going to be responsive. It's going to respond to the width and height of the device that it's being accessed by. And that's what fully responsive is. It orients to match screen width and height regardless of device. Let's do a test. You can go to to Google and you can do mobile friendly tests. Type in those keywords, write that down, because you all want to check that out, make sure. I have a website that I put in here called breakout.co. It's a clothing company here in San Diego. I'm trying to pitch them on some business, so help me out. So we did a little bit of a test on how mobile friendly they were, and this is what we got. Not mobile friendly. You don't want to see this page. Okay? It'll tell you right here why you're seeing this page. Content wider than the screen. Links too close together. And you can already see how Google is rendering it. It tells you, hey, we might not be absolutely correct, but this is what we're getting, and because of that, you're failing. Let's try one that does work. This is Craftique. And Craftique says, awesome, this page is mobile friendly. That's what you all want to see. When you type in your website, if you see anything else other than this, call me. Everyone knows about the Success Kid. I love that little baby. Helped me through school. So mobile friendly, optimized, responsive. You can see, like I mentioned before, not everybody has bought into this methodology yet. People are still trying to figure it out. So it's okay if you haven't figured it out yet too. All right, people are, how do you say, excited, but weary. It costs a lot, especially if you're dealing with developers here in America. It costs a lot. Developers are increasing in prices because they're getting better. They're being able to take advantage of people that don't know what they're doing. I can say, hey, I'll charge you $15 an hour, but I'm going to take 200 hours to build something, right? Or I can say, hey, I'll charge you $80 an hour, but it'll take me 40 hours to build something, right? Always, always, always be smart about the developers you deal with, because there's developers everywhere, and everybody wants to be a developer. And some people who say they're a developer are really just drag and droppers, right? How many people here have ever dealt with Wix or Weebly or Squarespace? Show of hands. Yeah, right? So you understand then. And those are limiting. And those are good to get a good start. You can get out the ground, introduce your product, but is it going to be responsive? Is it going to be friendly? Is it going to be optimized? Maybe. Is it going to look like every other site out there? Probably. The top 100 sites that have some ranked traffic, top 100 sites, 10 of them were responsive. 10.5% of the top 100 companies that are doing this are doing it right. So don't feel bad again if you haven't been there yet, but you can just see the numbers. The top 100,000 here, responsive 10,000, non-responsive 82,000. So we're right now at a cusp. We're about to break into totally responsive, all mobile, all everywhere you go. An internet of all things. Everything has Wi-Fi now, right? They're thinking about making streets full of Wi-Fi now, right? Sorry, we have to hold questions to the end. Sorry. But remember it, write it down. So everything's connected, and we're going to be even more connected by our smartphones. We're going to be able to get messages walking down the street past our favorite store, and a message is going to pop up on our phone saying, hey, Jill, come stop in, and we'll give you 10%, right? And you're like, who's watching me right now? It's because everything's getting smarter, and everything's becoming part of our daily lives. Here's some examples of some impossible to use sites. You can see, how many times have we seen this window? I have to turn my phone back to the right side just to get back to the site that I'm visiting, right? It tells you to please rotate your device. It's because it's not responsive. It's because it's been optimized for, what is it, portrait, right? Not landscape. Same thing here with Bellis, but it gives you a message saying, hey, don't use this site on your phone. You're going to get a crappy experience. Same thing with Pinterest. Pinterest says, hey, this is going to be really slow. You're not going to get the best experience. You should probably just download our app. What is that about? They can't just, Pinterest is what, #1 social network in the world right now?
Growing fast.
Yeah. So they can't afford to get just a mobilely optimized site. Maybe they have their own reason behind that. But here's some more examples. In our news feed, because we're on our mobile phone, we can't see this video here because it tells me that I have to have a certain width of my device in order to render this video. Hardee's, same thing as Carl's Jr. for everyone who hasn't been on the East Coast, right? And look at this. I mean, you can barely read this yellow on orange stuff. This is terrible. Jeep, looks nice, but what happened with their graphics here? Right? I mean, people aren't getting it right the first time, and that's okay. But we're getting to a place where people are expecting you to have a great mobile experience. 25% expect that the load time. So load time is a major issue, right? Sometimes you have a perfect site, looks awesome, you got all these cool stuff going on, but it takes forever to get to it. It takes forever for it to actually come up. 25% expect people that the load time of your desktop version will be the same experience as the mobile version. 25% of people, a quarter of people, like that's significant, right? If you have 25% of people coming to your site buying your product, like how much money is that worth to you? What is the ROI on that? 73% people have encountered a site that was too slow. So when I say something is too slow, that means it was too slow and I got out that site. I bounced. I found another site, another competitor that had a site that was willing to serve me the information I wanted in the time that I wanted it. 30% of people are going to wait. This is the majority. 30% of people are going to wait 6 to 10 seconds. There's a website out there called Pingdom. If you go to tools.pingdom.com and you type in your website, it'll give you exactly the page load speed, and you can do all kinds of optimization. You can say, I want to see how fast it takes on a dial-up, how fast it takes on broadband, how fast it takes on a 60 megabyte per second site. Like for instance, breakout.com, the breakout.co site, I've got a 50, 60 megabyte per second download speed, my house office. And That site took me 12 seconds to load on the fastest internet I've seen that's not Google Fiber or Fios. So think about it. Think about all the stuff that you put on your website. It could be the coolest website in the world, but if you're on your phone and it takes you more than 6 to 10 seconds, scrap it, kill it. It's just gonna hurt your business. MDOT versus responsive. So we talked a little bit about MDOT already. And MDOT, again, is old school tactics. You know, people still use it today, like I mentioned before, because they have legacy code. They're not willing to get rid of that customized feature or function that they, you know, are still attached to that's working for them, but it may be hurting them in the long run as well. You think about how you're segregating your traffic at that point. You don't want to segregate your traffic. You want to be able to segregate your traffic for conversion, not device. When you're segregating traffic, you're giving them one experience or the other experience because you're testing something on your mobile site. You're testing if the green button performs better than the blue button. You're testing if the mobile nav should have a hamburger in it or not even be there at all. You're testing fonts. You're testing font sizes. You're testing one thing at a time. And that's how you segregate data, not by device. Because then now you have a mess of data. And you're gonna have to call Brooke over here to have all your data aggregated, right? And have all your data managed. Now you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to manage all of your different sites and all your different properties just to get a glimpse at how it's performing, who your audience is, and how to optimize your site. So one name, one brand, any device, any browser, right? One code to rule them all. All of our Lord of the Ring fans in here? Yeah? All right. Okay. So responsive PSD creation. This is something that I tell all of my clients that are dealing with designers. I have a design team, so this is what I tell them all the time to do. So when you do design, when you are going to do a redesign, because everyone starts with wireframes first, and they do the design part, and then they do the building part. So whenever you do design, try to follow these steps. Hold your designer and your developer accountable. For your designer, you're usually going to get a PSD. If they give you an AI file to give to a developer, fire them. Okay? So PSDs are king in the world of creation. There's this thing called PSD to HTML that you might all know about. And so when you have a designer, please ask them, for my sake, please ask them to name each layer. You know, you don't want a developer searching through layers and layers, because let me take a step back. For all of you, how many of you know about Photoshop? Okay, a good amount of you. So you know about that you start with one layer. It's a blank canvas. And you can add additional layers to it for every element that you have. Those elements are important. So let the developer know how important they are. Explain to them in the layer file, say, hey, this is navigation menu. This is navigation menu list item 1. Be descriptive, help them out, because they're gonna help you out in the long run. That little bit of time that you spend doing that, it's gonna go way far. Next, group your page elements. Ask your designer not to have so if you wanna have 3 to 5 page website, 10 page website, 20 page website, generally you're gonna have 3 to 5 templates. So you're gonna have a home page, you'll have a sub page, you might have an e-commerce page, a blog page, and then the sub pages of those. So we're talking about maybe 6 to 7 templates at that point. Let your designer know that you want those organized. You want global elements in one folder, things that are going to exist in your header and footer on all pages, but the content inside, let them be in the different groups. You know, you want to be able to give your developer a chance. Don't expect them to figure it out, right? Not everyone went to Princeton. Not everybody, you know, did it for 18 years. A lot of these guys are getting into the game and maybe not have 10 hours of Photoshop experience as developers. Developers are not required to know Photoshop. Web designers are not required to know how to code. Designers are expected to know web standards. So when they build something for you and they design something for you, it's to code, right? But when you're hiring someone, usually you're hiring a designer and then a project manager, someone that can talk code, right? How many of us know how to speak code here? Right? A couple of us. But you need someone to be able to talk to the developer, because the developer, once he figures out that you don't speak code, he's going to game you, or she, sorry. They will game you. And you gotta make sure that you're protecting yourself. So coming to classes like this is very important because you get to learn things like this. But we have a project manager that is passionate about your business and can speak code and understands how to talk tech, and they can relay what your needs are to someone that is just going to sit there and take orders. Not all developers are going to give you feedback. Not all developers are going to give you opinions. A lot of developers are soldiers. Developers take orders. That's why we have technical requirement documents. I dealt with a company that I had an internal application for, and I wanted to give them some business. And I told them, hey, here's my MVP. I have all this other stuff, but here's my MVP. They said, okay. And so the first thing they asked me, hey, do you have mocks? Mock-up designs, wireframes? Sure. Next thing they said, do you have technical specification document? No. Okay, we can create that for you, no problem. Next thing they asked me for, do you have user stories? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have this? 4 months later. Now we're starting to get the ball rolling. Because developers, some, not all, some need every little piece of everything. And they'll take all of your time just planning. So make sure that you have someone that can help you plan. Make sure that you have someone that can run with your idea if you don't budget consciousness, right? Someone that can run with your idea and knows what they're doing, that's one thing. Someone that doesn't know your idea, doesn't really know what you're doing, and needs a lot of information, right? 2 ways of doing it. So let's get back to this. Create a new document for mobile, tablet, desktop, and large desktop. A lot of clients give me just a desktop PSD, and they expect me to come up with what the large version is going to look like, what the tablet version is going to look like, and what the small smartphone is going to look like. I can do that. However, some developers don't do that. You give them a PSD and say, here you go, they're going to give you back that PSD, but in code. And that's all you're going to get. So make sure that you require your designers to put together all these different responsive states of your design. Oh, down here you can't read it, but it says always deliver Retina and non-Retina PSDs and JPEGs along with fonts. This is important because now think about how many people have iPhones? A couple of us, okay. Apple is all Retina. They have 200 pixels per inch that they're displaying on their devices. Most web devices or web browsers in the past have been 72 pixels per inch. So it's a lot more pixelated. So if you have a non-Retina ready design, but not a Retina ready design, when you're on your Thunderbolt at home, it's going to look pixelated. It's not going to look crisp and clean like it can. So always ask for Retina and non-Retina images. The JPEGs are important too, because that's basically consolidating all the layers, all the fonts into a document, so your web developer can reference that document when he's looking at the PSD. Sometimes people don't give you fonts, and those fonts won't render correctly. And when the developer sees the PSD and the fonts aren't rendered correctly and he does the work, you're like, what is this? And the developer's like, I didn't get any fonts. It said that it required fonts, but I didn't have them, and I didn't need to ask you for them, so I'm giving you what I can give you. And that's sometimes how it goes. Sometimes developers just take orders. Fallbacks and resets. So video, I'm going to try to go through this quickly. I know we're on time. Video formats. When you're working with web devices, especially smartphones and tablets, OGG is an extension of a movie file. MP4 is another extension for movie file. WebM is another extension. Using HTML5, it essentially requires you to have 3 versions of your video files for all different devices that can play it. Some devices have different codecs, which are ways to render movies, and sometimes you get this error, right? How many of us have ever seen that before? You can't play the movie, right? It's because your device can't play that movie. So instead of a black background here, a fallback for that could be a background image. Always have a background image behind your videos. If your videos doesn't play, you don't want to have a big white block of space there that says cannot render video. Have a fallback in place. Have the 3 types of videos in place as well. Normalize and modernize. A lot of templates, themes, browsers even, they will assume what you want to be on your website. They will assume that you want special spacing and padding and font sizes and colors. We use Normalize to get rid of all that BS. Normalize essentially blanks out everything. It says, okay, here's the web standards, and this is what it's going to be. So we install our normalized file first, and then we have a modernized file. And modernize is essentially what it says. It adapts to modern browsers, modern devices, and it gives you the best experience possible. So these are two style sheets that I always include in everything that I do. And the next thing is browser-specific CSS. So sometimes, not all the times, people will include style sheets, which is essentially all your fonts, colors, spacing, padding, everything. But for Internet Explorer, and Explorer 6, 7, 8, 9, they all have their own style sheets, right? And you can write in logic into your code that detects what browser is being, or what version of that browser is being detected. So browser-specific CSS is good fallbacks. That way, if you have someone on an iPhone or iPhone 6, they'll get the best experience possible. HTML5, anyone using Flash still? Anybody? No? Yeah?
Because I just had a course for my 2-year-old graphic design class online that said I still needed to learn how to use Flash.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, Flash is cool because I mean it definitely correlates to other programs and applications you can learn on the way, but unfortunately a lot of browsers aren't supporting Flash anymore. So we have fallback now HTML5. HTML5 can give you the same animation, the same kind of visual stunning graphics that you're accustomed to with Flash, but now we can do it with code using Canvas. And it renders in generally every single browser I've ever used. Viewport, viewport width, viewport height. This is essentially some more code for your developer. I won't get into it too much, but it is what it says. Your viewport is your device, so your website will match whatever the viewport is. So we include viewport metadata, and we include viewport CSS as well. So other than Google rankings, why do we care on mobile? Well, right here. 60% of people are using their smartphones to access websites, right? So more than half the time, we're usually going online to check out a website or something, right? So if you're in one of those websites that 60% of people are checking out, then you better have a good site to check out, otherwise you're gonna lose business. If you have an ad that's running and people click on and they get to a site that's not mobilely optimized, you're losing money. Think about it. So what not to have on a mobile site, let's try to wrap this up. Autoplay video, you don't want to autoplay because you're gonna just drain someone's bandwidth, right? Non-optimized images, again, if someone has to download huge image files, it's gonna take way too much time and they're gonna bounce before the site even loads. Adobe Flash assets, get rid of them. Text size that requires zooming. If you have a little tiny text, don't be mean. People can't read very well when it's really tiny text, especially if it's white on black text, right? Or white on black, white text, black background. Like, that's just mean. People who are 35 and older, they need big text, right? People who are 30 and older, I need big text, okay? A site that places links in awkward and possible reach places, we talked about already. You know, you don't want to have buttons down at the bottom of your smartphone, right? You don't want people to have to misclick. You don't want tiny little links, you know, a period that they have to find on the page and they click onto the link. Make it big, bold, beautiful, stand out, have a call to action. So finally, what's included on your mobile site? Mobile menu, hamburger menu, we talked about this, whether it slides out, drops down, have a mobile menu, please. Don't have all of your links right there and I have to do this and that just to see your about page. Multiple media queries. Media queries, again, tell your style sheets, hey, between this size and this size, display the text this way. Display my website in this way. So between 320 pixels and 767 pixels, I want my site to look like this. From 768 to 991, I want my site to look like this. From 992 to 1199, site like this. And 1200 plus, I want it to look like this. 2 columns for Padlet and tablet. Columns, grid, 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 grid. People, get used to the grid. The grid is standard now. So type in grid on Google, grid CSS, grid PSD, whatever you need to. Basically a 12-column grid, and that's your large desktop. And within these 12 columns, they shrink as you get smaller in device. So you go from 12 columns down to 2 columns for tablet and phablet. So when you have, you know, your 7-inch or your 9-inch tablets, give them 2 columns. Don't make it 3, don't make it 4, because now when you have 4 columns, your images are tiny, your text is even tinier, and you're trying to cram everything in one place. Let it scroll. If you don't want to let it scroll, put a big button saying read more and take them to another page. It's okay. Just give them a good experience. 1 column for smartphone. When you're on your iPhone, how many people have ever seen like Amazon or something and you've got two things in a row? Never. It's always stacked on top of each other when you're on your mobile. Clear call to action, like I mentioned. People on their smartphone, they don't want to take forever to figure out what they want to do. Put a big button, a big image, something in there saying, hey, click on this. Hey, go to this page. Don't be afraid to tell people what to do. Some people are mindless drones and they need to be told what to do. It's okay. Large fonts, we already talked about that. Mobile optimized image, don't drain your customer's bandwidth. Mobile friendly meta tag, so again, tell your developer to include that mobile friendly tag. It's easy, it just says mobile friendly. Mobile optimized SEO, so sometimes when people are, well, you talked to Derek about this, but when people are looking for a certain experience, they're going to be looking for different keywords on their mobile device than their desktop. For instance, I had a client that did trivia, live trivia, and you would go to their website at home and tell you all about it, tell you all about trivia and all the things they do. But when you go to the same site on your mobile phone, it takes you to a map and it shows you all the trivia around you. And that's the home page. Because people have different expectations of websites depending on what they're doing at that time of day. So mobile optimized SEO. Anticipate what your client or customer or potential customer is doing at that moment when they're trying to get to your site. If you have a clothing site or a retail site and people are on the bus or on a subway or just walking down the street and they're looking at clothes, give them a good experience to buy those clothes. Don't try to make it be like on a website when people have time to sit down and scroll and just go through everything and waste 2 hours looking at clothes. Get people to convert in the first 15 minutes. Why not? Give them a chance. HTML5, we talked about single column forms with autofill. So we did talk about single column forms last week, but autofill. You're allowed to let people autofill forms. There is a special tag you can include in your form that says autofill true, essentially. That way people who have their information saved on their browsers or their phones, they can just let it get filled in. They don't have to worry about that back button anymore. They can just go back and their information is still there. Desktop version link, always include a link at the bottom that says, hey, request a desktop site. That'll take you to the actual full version that they might be used to. Cool. So how do you go about optimizing your site? You can do it yourself, or you can hire a professional. All right? And so that's all I've got for today. Thank you very much.
Woo. Thank you.